The Houston Texans walked into Arrowhead Stadium and did what nobody thought possible just 3 months ago. They held Patrick Mahomes to 10 points and stole a win in Kansas City. This is the same franchise that started the season 0-3, the same team analysts quietly erased from playoff conversations back in September. Yet here they stand now at 8 wins, staring directly at January football, while the entire AFC suddenly feels uneasy about their schedule. What flipped? How did a group written off before Halloween become the conference's most dangerous dark horse overnight? Look closer and you see a team rebuilt for pressure, long drives in the fourth quarter, clock management that bleeds minutes off the scoreboard, an offense that doesn't flinch when protection breaks down. That's the new Houston identity, a complete 180 from those early losses where panic defined their rhythm. Even in ugly stretches like that stalled third quarter against Kansas City, they refused to fold. Instead, they punched back when it mattered most, turning frustration into fourth quarter touchdowns while legends like Mahomes watched helplessly from the sideline. This isn't luck, it's a fundamental rewiring of how this franchise competes when the lights burn brightest. But the real secret weapon hiding in plain sight? It's not just CJ Stroud's growing command or Woody Marks' clutch carries as a rookie. The true earthquake shaking the NFL started on the other side of the ball. While everyone focused on Houston's offense finding its footing, a defense nobody saw coming began dismantling MVPs and future Hall of Famers with terrifying consistency. You'll see it in their eyes this Sunday. Quarterbacks across the AFC are already scanning the schedule, dreading that 1 week when they have to solve Houston's suffocating puzzle. And that's where our story truly begins. Not with the gunslinger, but with the group turning Arrowhead into a haunted house for elite passers. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Texans and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 350 likes on this video. Imagine this Patrick Mahomes scanning the field for an open receiver, sweat on his brow, and finding nowhere to throw. That's not a fluke. It's the Houston Texans defense turning superstar quarterbacks into prisoners every single Sunday. This unit doesn't just show up, it suffocates. Against Kansas City, they didn't blitz wildly. They simply won one-on-one battles so brutally that Mahomes' magic evaporated. Same story against Josh Allen in Buffalo. Same story against every offense that thought it could outscore Houston. The NFL's most explosive attacks walk into NRG Stadium believing they hold the keys, only to discover the Texans change the locks. The secret lies in their three-headed monster up front. Edge rushers Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter don't just chase quarterbacks. They collapse entire universes. When Anderson fires off the snap, tackles stumble backward like they've been hit by a truck. When Hunter bull rushes guards, pockets vanish before plays develop. Behind them, linebackers Azeez Al-Shaair and Henry To'oTo'o read run keys like chess masters, meeting backs at the line of scrimmage before they even hit the hole. Even when offenses try to counter with screens or draws, rotational forces like Denico Autry, Mario Edwards Jr., Sheldon Rankins, and Tim Settle surge through untouched gaps, turning 4-yard gains into losses. This isn't about one superstar. It's about 11 men moving as one relentless machine. And here's what keeps offensive coordinators awake at night. Houston's defense doesn't just stop drives. It murders momentum. Short yardage situations become death sentences. Third and manageable turns into third and impossible. That 4th and inches stop against the Chiefs? That wasn't luck. It was Henry To'oTo'o diagnosing the play before the snap and Will Anderson Jr. shooting the gap like a missile. But the real nightmare for quarterbacks isn't just the pressure up front. It's what waits downfield when they finally escape. Because behind this front seven lies a secondary so locked in, so unpredictable, that even perfect throws end in disaster. That's where the Texans' defense transforms from terrifying to truly historic. Watch film of the Texans' secondary, and you'll see quarterbacks freeze mid-play like they've forgotten their own playbook. Derek Stingley Jr. isn't just covering receivers, he's erasing them. One snap he shadows the opponent's number 1 wideout across 3 zones. The next he baits a throw by pretending to play off coverage, only to pounce when the ball leaves the quarterback's hand. Then there's Kamari Lassiter, a rookie playing with zero fear. He jams receivers at the line like a 10-year veteran, flips his hips to stay stride for stride on deep routes, and jumps throws that should be unjumpable. This isn't just talent, it's chess played at full sprint speed. The magic happens in the details nobody talks about. Jalen Peter spends Sundays glued to tight ends like Travis Kelce, turning what should be easy completions into bruising, low-yardage battles. Behind him, Callan Bullock, another rookie, patrols the deep middle like a hawk, reading quarterbacks' eyes before they even set their feet. What makes this group terrifying is how they disguise everything. Pre-snap shells that look like soft zone coverage suddenly morph into tight man coverage the moment the ball is snapped. Blitz packages fake pressure only to drop 7 into coverage, shrinking windows until even perfect throws sail incomplete. When Patrick Mahomes threw 2 interceptions in the second half against Houston, it wasn't bad luck. It was this secondary turning his instincts against him. And here's the twist nobody predicted. This young, hungry secondary doesn't just prevent points. They create them. Takeaways aren't accidents in Houston, they're inevitabilities. Every tip pass, every forced fumble, every underthrown ball becomes a short field for their offense. That's why teams like the Bills and Chiefs left Houston not just frustrated, but fundamentally shaken. Because when your defense doesn't just stop drives but flips games with takeaways, it gives your quarterback permission to breathe, permission to make mistakes, permission to grow. Which brings us to the man who's transforming from project to problem for every defense he faces, CJ Stroud. His journey from shaky starter to ice-veined leader isn't just about arm talent. It's about learning to trust the storm around him. Remember those early Houston games where CJ Stroud looked like a stranger in his own offense? Against the Rams, he retreated from pressure like he was avoiding ghosts. In Tampa Bay, throws sailed wildly over open receivers while the pocket crumbled around him. Back then, his eyes betrayed doubt. Every missed read, every sack, every 3-and-out screamed a quarterback drowning in noise. Fast forward to now. When Kansas City's blitz came screaming in the fourth quarter, Stroud didn't flinch. He stepped up, reset his feet under fire, and threaded a needle to Jaden Higgins like the chaos around him was just background static. This isn't the same player from September. This is a leader forged in the exact moments that once broke him. The transformation hides in the messy details nobody highlights. It's not about perfect stat lines. Stroud finished the Chiefs game just 15 of 31 for 203 yards. It's about what happens when drives stall and the crowd roars. Against Baltimore, he escaped a free rusher, rolled left with defenders draped on his jersey, and still found Nico Collins for a critical first down. Against Buffalo, he checked down to Woody Marks on 3rd and short, not because the play failed, but because he trusted his rookie back to convert when the defense knew the run was coming. Even his misses now feel different. Tighter windows, quicker releases, throws that force receivers to adjust instead of waiting for perfect placement. This isn't luck. It's a quarterback finally believing his own arm when everything around him screams panic. What truly separates Stroud isn't his arm strength or his Ohio State pedigree. It's how he breathes life into teammates when games hang in the balance. Watch Dalton Schultz in the red zone. Stroud's trust turns contested throws into touchdown celebrations. Watch Christian Kirk on crossing routes. Sudden checkdowns become chain movers because Stroud sees coverage rotations before they fully develop. This quiet confidence radiates through the entire offense. But here's the untold story. Stroud doesn't carry this burden alone. His calm only matters because Houston's weapons respond when called. Because when the pocket collapses and the noise swallows the stadium, he's not just throwing to jerseys. He's feeding a group of playmakers who refuse to let him drown. And that's where Houston's offense flips from promising to downright dangerous. Numbers can lie. Watch Houston's offense closely, and you'll see Nico Collins bullying cornerbacks at the catch point when the scoreboard looks quiet. See Jaden Higgins absorbing hits over the middle on 3rd down, turning brutal collisions into first downs while defenses stack the box knowing exactly what's coming. This isn't about gaudy yardage totals. It's about Woody Marks, a rookie thrust into the spotlight after Nick Chubb's injury, grinding out critical inches on fourth quarter runs when every fan in the stadium knows Houston will hand off. Even Dalton Schultz disappears for stretches, then materializes in the red zone like a ghost when CJ Stroud needs one perfect throw to seal a game. These aren't role players. They're pressure valves for an offense that refuses to break. The magic lives in the details stats ignore. Christian Kirk might catch only 3 passes, but his routes clear space for others, turning coverage rotations into openings downfield. Jalen Knowles' speed stretches safeties horizontally, creating creases for Higgins and Schultz underneath. When the offensive line stumbles, and it still does, these playmakers adapt. Against Kansas City, when protection crumbled in the third quarter, Collins adjusted mid-route to haul in off-target throws. When blitzes overloaded the interior, Higgins found soft spots between linebackers like a heat-seeking missile. This group doesn't panic when drives stall. They reset. They trust Stroud to find them, and Stroud trusts them to win one-on-one battles when the play breaks down. That chemistry turns ugly possessions into points when it matters most. But here's what nobody saw coming. Houston's offense stays alive not because it's perfect, but because it's resilient. Even when Stroud misses early, even when the line gives up pressures, this crew finds ways to move the chains when hope seems lost. They've turned 3rd and long from a death sentence into a challenge. And that refusal to quit didn't appear overnight. It was forged in the darkest moments of the season, when losses piled up, when critics called for changes, when this team faced a choice: fade away or fight back. What happened next wasn't just a turnaround, it was a resurrection. Because while everyone watched Stroud's rise, a backup quarterback named Davis Mills was quietly stealing wins that saved Houston's season from oblivion. Those moments didn't just keep them alive, they rewired this team's DNA. And that story begins with 3 losses that changed everything. 3 losses, 0 wins. By week 4, the Houston Texans looked like a team already planning their offseason vacations. Fans turned away. Analysts erased them from playoff projections. The offense sputtered. The defense looked lost. Even the most optimistic locker room couldn't ignore the truth. This season was slipping into the abyss. But while everyone wrote epitaphs, a quiet resolve took root in Houston. They didn't panic. They didn't point fingers. They simply refused to let 3 bad weeks define their entire year. That stubbornness became their lifeline, and it started with a backup quarterback nobody expected to matter. Enter Davis Mills. When injuries threatened to sink the season, Mills didn't just fill in, he stole victories that felt impossible. Against the Jaguars, with Trevor Lawrence firing on all cylinders, Mills engineered a game-winning drive in the final minutes. In Tennessee, he outdueled Derrick Henry's ground assault with ice-cold third-down conversions. Then came Buffalo, a road game against Josh Allen's explosive Bills where Mills absorbed hits, ignored noise, and delivered throws that kept Houston's faint pulse alive. These weren't fluke wins. They were gritty, ugly, necessary lifelines thrown by a quarterback playing with house money. Mills didn't just keep the season breathing. He preserved hope when hope was the rarest commodity in Houston. That foundation of resilience is why CJ Stroud returned to a meaningful race instead of a lost cause. Mills' wins didn't just pad the standings, they rewired this team's belief. Now, when drives stall or pressure mounts, the Texans don't unravel. They remember Tennessee. They remember Buffalo. They remember what it cost to claw back from 0. That mental armor forged in those early losses is why they now thrive in moments that break other teams. But this story isn't just about survival, it's about domination. Because those 3 critical wins didn't just save Houston's season, they reshaped the entire AFC South. Now, with a division title in reach and Jaguars, Colts, and Titans breathing down their necks, every snap carries championship weight. And that race, it's tighter than anyone predicted. Right now, the Houston Texans hold 8 wins but sit second in their own division, a truth that feels impossible after starting 0-3. The Jaguars lead at 9-4, but Houston's path to the AFC South crown is wide open because they own the critical tiebreakers. That head-to-head demolition of Jacksonville in Week 13 wasn't just a win, it rewrote the division's math. Beat the Colts twice? Check. Win 4 of 6 division games? Check. That record flips tiebreakers like a switch. turning what looked like a wild card afterthought into a legitimate shot at hosting playoff football. Every snap from here doesn't just count. It echoes through conference standings where teams like the Bills, Steelers, and Broncos are scrambling for scraps. Look at the remaining schedule, and you see why urgency radiates through Houston's locker room. Home games against the Cardinals and Raiders feel like must-wins, opponents with losing records, but nothing to lose. Then comes Los Angeles, a road trip to face the Chargers and Justin Herbert, a team fighting for its own playoff life. One slip there, and the division lead evaporates. But the real earthquake arrives Week 18, Texans versus Colts at NRG Stadium. Win that, and Houston hoists the AFC South trophy. Lose it, and they plunge into the wildcard gauntlet where a single mistake ends seasons. This isn't just about making the playoffs. It's about controlling destiny when every rival knows a loss to Houston could mean watching January football from home. The weight of this moment hangs on details nobody talks about. A dropped pass against Arizona, a missed tackle in Indianapolis, a single penalty that swings field position in a dome loud enough to shake foundations. These aren't hypotheticals. They're the razor-thin margin separating a division title from a one-and-done road trip. And here's the unspoken truth haunting the AFC. Houston's defense doesn't just win games, it wins ugly, close, and pressure-packed battles where experience means everything. While young teams crumble in December, these Texans thrive, which raises the terrifying question nobody wants to ask aloud. What happens when this same defense steps onto the playoff stage? Because if you think Mahomes and Allen struggled against them in December, wait until January's lights burn brightest. And Houston's young core realizes they're not just crashing the party. They're here to end dynasties. Forget everything you thought you knew about young teams in January. The Houston Texans aren't built like typical playoff newcomers. Their core breathes fire under pressure. CJ Stroud commanding the huddle at just 23 years old. Will Anderson Jr. hunting quarterbacks with relentless fury. And a defensive backfield anchored by rookie playmakers like Kamari Lassiter and Callan Bullock, who play like veterans. This isn't a group peaking early, it's a foundation rising. While other franchises rebuild for tomorrow, Houston's young stars are already mastering the art of winning ugly today. That's the quiet truth shaking the NFL. When the playoffs start, experience matters less than who refuses to blink. And these Texans blink last. Imagine the matchups that terrify coaches across the AFC. Lamar Jackson facing a front seven that turns scrambles into dead ends. Derrick Henry meeting stacked boxes designed to force him into passing situations where Derek Stingley Jr. and Jalen Piter erase quick throws. Justin Herbert watching his timing routes collapse under disguised coverages that bait interceptions. Houston doesn't need shootouts. They thrive in the trenches where games are won on fourth down and red zone stops. Their formula is brutally simple. Let the defense create short fields, trust Woody Marks, a rookie who bleeds for inches, and let Stroud make one perfect throw when everything hangs in the balance. That's how underdogs become giants. That's how January belongs to the prepared. The NFL spent years fearing a team exactly like this. Not one built on flashy stats or superstar egos, but on discipline that suffocates hope. On defenders like Danielle Hunter and Azeez Al-Shaair who turn second halves into nightmares. On a quarterback whose calm grows louder when the noise peaks. This isn't a Cinderella story, it's a declaration. While everyone focused on Houston's start, they rebuilt their soul. While analysts debated stats, they forged trust. And now, as the playoffs loom, they carry a truth no opponent can dismiss. The most dangerous teams aren't the ones chasing history. They're the ones writing it in silence, one suffocating drive at a time. The script has changed, the fear is real, and it wears Houston red.